Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we are with Ian from Misty, the inventor of Sphero, the robotic ball that we all love, which turned to be BB-8 and BB-9 and many other cool robots. Also, the inventor of Misty Robot and a roboticist by heart. Thank you, Ian, for joining us today.
Thanks.
Yeah. Today we are going to talk mostly about Misty and what's this new cool robot has to offer for the education, the research community. We have hey Misty, we have a lot of interest in this product, especially from the research community, because it's an open platform and it's really robust and looks like very, very open. But I would like to hear from you a little bit, more about the background, where Misty came from, why, this form factor, why, this name even. So if you can share a little bit about that, it'll be cool.
Yeah, I mean, sort of the short story is it really came, Adam Wilson, my co-founder at Sphero, and I were out in LA in 2014. That's when we first heard about BB-8, started working on that product. We had already started to go in a little bit to education with Sphero, but we were just sitting having a beer actually at a brewery near where we were working out there, and started thinking about big ideas that we could maybe implement, and thought, why can't we make, we just started working on BB-8, why can't we make a real BB-8 or like a real R2-D2, like a real robot? And not doesn't like have to look like BB-8 or look like R2-D2, but the idea of a robot in our lives helping us with different tasks.
Yeah. And
that was sort of the inspiration of this more advanced robot, this robot that could actually start to do useful things. And we thought a lot about like what things this robot could do if it were, if we were making the product to do like vacuuming or a very specific task, and ended up landing on the platform idea as a way of utilizing the community, like thinking about phones and computers. And it wasn't, my phone, right? Most of the apps on my phone aren't written by Apple.
Yeah.
Google, if you're Android, they're written by third parties who are experts in different use cases.
Yep.
So we wanted to create Misty as a platform. We wanted a robot that was, she's listening for her name, so she just beeped next to me.
Yeah.
We wanted a robot that wasn't scary, that people, would be accepted in your workplace, your home, like not too big that it would be hard to develop for. Understanding that there is a lot of applications still for a smaller robot. And then a set of capabilities that would allow it to actually do real things. So voice and interaction, mapping and navigation, movement, expressions with the personality, so we could connect with people, and provide all these sort of toolbox to developers, educators, like whoever it is.
The cost, obviously, as well as a important factor.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like the short story of like how we got to Misty.
Gotcha. I noticed that everyone at Misty refer to it as a hair.
Yep.
What's the reason behind this choice?
I mean, it could be whatever you want. I mean, a lot of the inspiration behind Misty, like as far as the design, like for a long time, I have like a required movie list for people on my team, which is like,
I should put
like all kinds of AI and like Her and Ex Machina, but also like Wall-E, Chappie, Short Circuit with Johnny Five.
Yep.
So a lot of the inspiration for the design came from movies like Wall-E with Eve,
yeah.
Like Baymax, Short Circuit, like a lot of those. Yeah, just sort of that like form factor was definitely important for like people like, and it's worked. Like when we go to different events, you take Misty out in public, like people just run over and like want to interact.
Yes. Yeah. And we got one of the early units in our office for testing, And yeah, I experienced it myself. I mean, everyone was like, "Oh, what's that? You know, how do you interact with it?" And then everyone like start touching it and talking to it. And talking to her.
And kind of, yeah, to your question, like, why is it her? Like, we felt that like more of a feminine robot, and it doesn't, people can really somebody can make Misty a him as well. We thought more of like the feminine side would be more approachable.
Got you.
Just one reason.
Cool. So, we, focus on the education and the research market, and, being an open platform where you encourage basically people to develop for it. It's not a toy, right? You don't have a button to push and, that's about it. I believe it brings, a lot of flexibility to the, to the space. So can you talk a little bit about, the programming interface, or, how you see that, what can you do with this robot once you get it out of the box?
Yeah, I mean, we want to allow people to be as creative as possible around the product, and in order to do that, we wanted to make sure that it was super modifiable from the software perspective. Like all the low level data you get out of sensors and stuff is available for people, because we never know how they might want to use that data. We might abstract it to a certain layer that we think makes sense, but somebody might have an application where that raw data is important. So we wanted to provide it at all levels. And then even like the hardware side, very modifiable from a hardware perspective as well, like just sort of standardized screws. So you could even take Misty apart and reassemble her. For the most part, like most pieces are very easy to take apart and put back together. We have the backpack. So Misty has this magnetic backpack on the back that pops off. And we have an Arduino version of this. So you can hook up any existing Arduino shields. So you can hook in other sensors or control motors. So we had some students at the local university created a 3D printed arm. So again, the arm's one screw, the arm pops off. So they created their own arm. We released all the CAD files for Misty for all the shell. So you can create attachments like they did. Their arm could reach out and grab things, and that was controlled from the backpack. We've done things like our chariot, where it's like a 4-foot tall base that Misty sits on top, and that chariot is controlled through the backpack. For education, I mean, I think it's really cool that Misty is also like a real thing. Like it's not a toy.
Yeah.
So if a student is working with Misty, the things they're creating can be actually like real things. Like they might start with some fun things that maybe aren't like, it's not going to like solve a world problem or something, but they can extend that to actually solve real problems for elderly people or therapies or all kinds of different stuff, which I think is really cool. It's not like, you're not like this kid student working with like the toy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so you mentioned that you can modify the hardware. So unlike, I would say traditional or other robots that, if you open the shell, then you basically void the warranty. What you're saying, you actually encourage that. I mean, you want them to hack it in a way.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's crazy. Like I was on just like 2 days ago, I was on ifixit.com, website. You can buy like parts. I was trying to find a part for like one of my PS4 remotes broke, and I was looking to see if they had it. And the thing popped up when I went to the website that said, there's actually apparently like laws that might be passed that can prevent you from like repairing things.
Yeah.
It's like asking for my email, like to sign up for like, thing like to support repairability in products, which is crazy.
Actually, Apple got hit by that with their battery thing. There is in California, I think at least, it's the Right to Repair Act or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I mean, so Misty, like super expandable, lots of different attachment points, like the backpack, like I said, the arms, it's just one screw you take off. We released all the models, and the models we also, we released the CAD of the shells of the actual Misty, but we also released a bunch of parts that could be 3D printed, because if you 3D printed parts,
Sure.
Like, some parts, like when you 3D print them, they expand or contract a little bit. So like your model might be perfectly sized, but when you 3D print it, it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
We released a bunch of like blanks for a bunch of different attachment points on Misty that are already resized. So like when you print on your cheaper 3D printer, they come out well.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So this is on the hardware side. What about the software side? How can it be programmed? Which languages you support? And which level? Yeah.
So Misty Misty connects to your Wi-Fi network, and basically, once she's on your network, just like every other device that's on your network, she has an IP address. And with that IP address, you can send what are called REST commands. So you can send commands to this IP address. And what you send to that IP address can come from anything. So you could write in, Python or C# or like an iPhone app, or whatever you want. Yeah. So it's basically any language out there that you can send commands to, like an IP address or a RESTful command.
Gotcha.
So that's sending from an external device. So if your program is running on your computer or your Chromebook or whatever it is, it can be anything. On Misty, if you want to run a skill autonomously, native it's JavaScript or C#. So those are the two languages that we support on Misty.
Gotcha.
And we have some web tools. So basically you just go to sdk.mistyrobotics.com. There's a little box in the upper corner where you put in your IP address, and those tools allow you to play around with Misty. So right out of the box, like if you bought a brand new Misty, you put her on your table, you turn her on, you use an iPhone or Android app to connect her to your network. The app shows you with the IP address, you punch it into that website, and then that's it. So from there, you can play around with some of the different functionalities. You can drive Misty around, you can train her on your face to do like face recognition, you can create a map and navigate within that map. You can play sounds, you can create different graphics for eyes or face. There's a lot of stuff around the personality side. So we've created a pack of sounds and a pack of eyes for different expressions.
Nice.
You can also obviously create your own. And then you can create programs just in Notepad or whatever on your computer.
Yeah.
And on that same website, you can just drag those files in to run your program. And we spent a lot of time on our documentation because that's very, very important. For anything for an educator or developer, documentation is key.
Yeah, I noticed that, and it's a bliss, I have to say. I mean, typically manufacturers don't follow up on documentation. They just run forward, and later we'll do documentation, but it never happens.
No, and it takes, and we have like a full-time technical writer as well on our staff who's just really good at writing clear documentation, and having somebody that's really dedicated to that is important too.
Cool. So what you're saying basically, if I'm running something outside of Misty, I can use practically any language out there, Java, C#, whatever, even ROS or whatnot.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I didn't say ROS, but that's a very important one for education universities as well. Yeah. So we don't run ROS on board on Misty right now, but you can run it as a wrapper on your, your PC or whatever you're running ROS on. Yeah.
So basically anything that supports basic TCP commands, and implement the protocol that you put in place, can work. There's no limit or no DLLs or whatnot to install on that, which is awesome. That's a very fresh approach to programming, it's really good. And running on the robot, you said that you support JavaScript and C#, which hints that the operating system is Windows-based?
Yeah, so we have two operating systems running in Misty. So there's actually two separate processors. There's one processor that's much more powerful. That does all our SLAM mapping navigation, like computer vision processing, and that's running Android. But our main processor that's running like user programs, if you set your JavaScript or C# program to Misty, That's on a separate processor that's running Windows 10 IoT.
Gotcha.
And most, I mean, unless you're in the C# side, you can get pretty deep into the hardware and mechanics of Misty. On the JavaScript side, like you wouldn't even know like what operating system is really running underneath, because you're basically just sending JavaScript commands. The reason we did that is we wanted Misty to basically be accessible to any developer, and JavaScript is one of the most used and known languages out there. There's lots of documentation on JavaScript. So we wanted somebody, or maybe a student who's built a website, now they can program for Misty.
Yep. Or hook their website to Misty. That's even better.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. What would you say is the most exciting feature? Like, you know, for someone that doesn't know the robot, and from what you see, I mean, so far.
You know, for me, it's the ability to connect Misty with all the other services online. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of that ability to connect to third-party APIs as well. So you have this physical robot in your space, but then you connect it to Google's Dialogflow APIs to do natural language processing. Or like one of the first skills that I wrote for my Misty a while back last year was I just wanted her to basically show me the weather in kind of in a cute way. So in Photoshop, I created like 20 different eyes for like snowing and windy and rainy, like all different kinds of stuff. And I just looked online for like weather API, and literally in like 5 minutes, just using our own documentation to figure out how to do it, was able to pull like current weather for where I'm at in Boulder, Colorado, and then based on the current weather, like display that via her eyes. So basically taking the power of this physical robot in your space, but also connect it to all the crazy APIs that you can find out in the world, I think is really cool to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say extendability. That's, you know, you can extend it as much as you want, both on hardware and software.
Yep.
This is, that's a great feature. Are there any prerequisites, or like, you know, if I'm totally new to robotics or, you know, to programming in general, what do I need to know before starting to work with Misty?
I mean, there's a lot of different sort of avenues you can go with Misty. So we have some people that have worked on like a Blockly port to program Misty just visually. Yeah. Not all the commands are supported, and it's sort of in the community, but so you could use it with
no experience. That's what you're saying.
Right. Up to, you know, some professors, like the ones at DU in Denver, they created the 3D printed arm. Like they were more like creating physical attachments. So they had sort of a small multidisciplinary team. They had some software engineers, mechanical people, students that were working together to create this arm. Yeah. You can go down the whole avenue of this like socially assistive robot and studying interactions with kids, personality and character design. So that, you know, that's using more of the eyes and the sounds and like, and maybe face recognition on Misty, using that set of features to study that. Yeah. Of course, there's all the mapping and navigation. So you could have other types of interactions that you're looking into. So there's just so many different sort of paths you can come at it. So, you know, an educator that's maybe thinking about Misty, you know, either just look online or even better, like hit us up. We'd love to sort of have a conversation with you to talk about just sort of like what your goals are, what you think you might, you know, what you're trying to accomplish. And then we can sort of, you know, hopefully not create the whole thing from scratch, because there's lots of people that have already created different things for Misty. So we can sort of connect you with somebody that has, or their direction. A lot of the skills that people have written are already like open source.
Yeah.
So you can point you to their GitHub libraries or them to sort of, satisfy that goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I noticed that you have a pretty active community as well.
Yep.
So, if it's not been answered by Misty, the team at Misty, then probably someone from the community will be able to help.
Yep.
Which is really, really, welcome in this in this world. So what's the, I would say, typical age group that can start working with Misty? Or what's the level, if not by age group, what's the level that you expect people to have when they start?
Yeah, that's a good question. It also kind of depends on what they're doing, right? Because there's a couple customers of ours who are in the socially assistive robot space therapy, using Misty as a device to teach social skills and things like that to kids with special needs.
Yep.
So their students can be quite young. I'm trying to remember.
But they're not programming. They are
4 or 5, right? They're sort of interacting with it, right?
Yeah.
And Misty is the teacher in that in that case. If you're, to be like, how old do you have to be to sort of actually sit down and start programming Misty? If you leave out like maybe the open source like Blockly stuff, if you're more sitting down to actually write code, it's probably 10, 12 and up. But I would say the sweet spot for Misty is really older high school kids into university and college, and beyond, right?
Yeah.
If you're just like doing block-based programming, there's a lot of other devices like Spiro and stuff like that. But
sure.
I see Misty is sort of that next step. Like you maybe done some basic stuff, played around with some of the other robots out there. Now you want to get a little bit more advanced or do something real, then that's where Misty comes in. So it's probably more like, 16, 17, 18, definitely in university and college.
So it's basically once they graduated from the, Sphero level of robots, then Misty is a great next step, following that.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Nice. What's in the pipeline? What's, coming up for Misty? What's the future, iterations or, features that you see coming up?
Yeah, so we just released a couple different versions. So we have a lower end version called Misty Basic that has, basically we took out the structure sensor in Misty, and basically that lowered the cost. That's useful for somebody that wants to do like voice interactions, maybe working on therapies and stuff. They don't need to map and navigate a space.
Gotcha.
And it's more accessible for them. And then we released a pro version. There's basically one of the processors inside Misty has a lot more memory, and that allows her to map and navigate a much larger space. And then the standard version is the version is the same as the version that we launched with last year.
Gotcha.
So we're working with more customers now. Some of those customers are moving further along, developing their solutions. There's always new skills that are coming out into the community that you can build off of. So instead of starting from scratch, you can take an existing skill that somebody has posted and create something even cooler. And then just from our end on the back end side, just improving different functionality. So the functionality that's in there, like making mapping better and making voice interactions better, releasing new API commands to be able to do more advanced features, like abstracting some of that stuff out so that, what took 100 lines of code now can take 2 lines of code. So we'll continue to do that. And then we're obviously, like on our side, we're building some of our own example code templates to build off of to make it easier, and always releasing more of those as well.
Gotcha. That's great. Yeah, I can't wait to see what's coming up for her. Again, I mean, we had, you know, one to test, one of the first, I think, robots that came off the production line, and we're very, very impressed. And I know that the customer that we already shipped to are very, very happy with that. So, you know, more is welcome and always better.
Good.
Great. Is there anything else you would like to share with our, you know, with our viewers here?
We'll just love for you guys to check out our community. So if you go to our website, mistyrobotics.com, there's a community link up in the menu bar. Share ideas, things you're thinking about. Obviously, we'd love for you to have a Misty, and be sharing, you know, skills and things like that with the community. But definitely check it out. And if you have any questions, you know, hit us up.
Yeah, and we're here to help as well.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate your time. Stay safe out there in this virus craze that's going on there. And thank you everyone for watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye, Misty. Bye.